Well, this is a whole new thing, kind of. It's something I've been thinking of trying, and I just jumped the gun and did it now. And I don't know why I thought that my hair and makeup from 11 p.m. last night when I went into work would last me until, what time is it? Until 2:20 p.m. I don't know why, but you're just gonna have to forgive how I look because it's been a long night. To explain what this is, back in the day, back when blogs were the thing, there used to be this, I guess, a way that people would blog where it was kind of like a stream of consciousness or like a Dear Diary, or what did they call it? I think it was like Honest to Blog or something so catchy like that. Not only do I miss those days and I miss I miss blogging. Can we go back to blogs? Not like the big time lifestyle bloggers. I don't know. No, I'm talking when like everybody had a gross, ugly blogger blog that the design hurt your eyes and you could barely read the font, and everybody got the Liebster Award. Do you guys remember? Oh God, good old days. Even farther back, I miss MySpace. I've unintentionally split up my online presence that I wanted to do. I've wanted to do so many things of just connecting online for really years now, ever since my son was born. And it's like I got the podcast, and the podcast is a little bit of everything, but it still has to be, structured. I want it to be thought out, planned. I don't just want to slob together a half-ass conversation for that. And somehow ended up on TikTok talking about ADHD. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to complain. But TikTok has its own limitations. It's like 60 seconds and people are fucking sick of you. It's like everything is a box. And vlogging and just doing like a how I'm feeling and what I'm up to vlog is more about connection, I feel like. I actually, one of my favorite YouTubers is, he's a commentary, well, he's kind of a little bit of everything, but he does commentary, and his name is Peter Mon. And I will always listen to his videos when I'm starting my day, or when I'm cleaning, or when I'm on my way to work, because he just sits down and talks, and it's like talking, having a conversation with a friend. He just talks about whatever's going on in his life, and he goes off on rants and tangents, and he's funny, and it's different than a structured blah content for like the point of education or a small bit, like I shared a painting that I was doing earlier today. And those are nice, but I just miss the sit down and like connect thing, and I hope to do it more. And I was thinking about it too because it's so everybody wants that. They want like the micro blogging and they want it like short. I don't care if nobody watches this. I'm just gonna do it so that I can feel like I'm talking to somebody because, well, isn't that why everybody vlogs? But also because I really do miss connection, and I miss just kind of talking about things without the how do I format this. So this is kind of going to be a catch-all for whatever I feel like talking about. Could be a little bit of everything. Today, I thought I would start off with an intro to the past few years. I don't know, some things that are on my mind, and some things that have been on my mind. I guess you can call this like an intro or an about me, but if you're here, you probably have already heard me or seen me somewhere, so whatever. And I'm looking at a notebook because I did write notes because I'm old and I have a bad brain and I will forget what I'm talking about. Also, just so you know, there's some cows over there, so if you see me like doing that, I'm just watching the cows. Talking about things. I the best place I guess to start. I've been thinking about this lately and noticing it when I'm like on social media. So when I'm on TikTok or when I'm on Instagram or YouTube, wherever, I am so different to how I was when I was like, I would say peak difference, like the two peaks of difference are when I was like 21 to 24, and then now. And I'm like a totally different person. And I hate when people say that because I'm like, no, you're not. No. And I still believe that. I believe that we are who we are and you're just born you. But there's so many things that are different about me. Like, if you had a conversation with me today and a conversation with me in my early 20s, it would not even remotely the same. I think probably a lot of people could say that. I don't know, maybe people even older, people in their 30s, or older, like I'm not in my 30s, and they're like 40s and 50s would say that even more. But it's kind of sad to me because what happened was, in my opinion, I was who I was when I was a kid. I was me. I was Alex. And then I slowly was taken over by defense mechanisms, and then that shaped my personality for quite a few formative years, teens, early 20s. And now I'm finding my way back to it. And that's cool. Like, it's a good thing, because I really do feel like myself now. Where I don't know what the fuck. If you would have said, "Hey, 24-year-old Alex, do you feel like yourself?" I probably would have said yes then too. But my ears popping. What does that mean? My character seems to align with what it was when I was a kid, and I mean that in like kid-like qualities, but also very specific qualities to me. But some of those qualities are like the ones that stand out the most to me would be curious. I'm so curious now. Um, Unassuming, I think. Uh, I've always had a certain level of assumption, just on the biological fear threat thing, that I definitely still have that. But when it comes to how I feel about other people's motivations, very rarely do I black and white their overall personality. I think that I play devil's advocate even for people I don't like. Even people I don't like, me personally don't like, I will play devil's advocate for them. And I used to not be that way at all. Another way that I am now that I was when I was young, um, is very caring. Like, not just in that abused child way where it's like, please let me care for you so that I don't have to suffer the consequences, but like caring without motives. Like, I'm genuinely delighted by people in my life, and so when I make the choice to care about them, it's like I find some kind of, again, character appreciation for them. I don't know. When I was in fourth grade, we had a lesson on Silent Spring and the environmentalism of the 70s, and they were so optimistic back then. My fourth grade teacher was like, "Yeah, when you guys are older, we'll probably just be like shuttling our trash to the sun, so there won't be any landfills." If only. But I remember I cried and I was so worried about it. And when I was reading about Greta Thunberg, I remember reading that she had OCD when she read about the state of the climate. She got absolutely petrified, and I remember being that way as a kid. I remember the exact level of like, oh my god, panic, 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 the world is dying, we are killing the world. And when I was in, oh gosh, some year younger than that, I I was at school and we had this big tree in our elementary school. So in our elementary school, we had the school, the playground on the side, and then a creek that ran, or if you're from where I'm from, we call it a branch. But creek or branch, whatever you want to call it, it ran past the school, and there was this big tree, and all the roots were up, and we had all these magical stories there. I mean, it was just like something out of Totoro. Um, and they cut this tree down. See, I'm tearing up thinking about this tree, like, what, 30, 29 years later? Um, and I was so young. I was first grade, second grade at the oldest. And I had been on that playground since I was 4 years old. So 2, 3, 4 years of my life, and they cut it down, and bawled. I bawled my eyes out. I remember I was such a hippie when I was a kid. I remember thinking that they had killed, like it was like witnessing a murder. I didn't even watch them cut down the tree. We just went outside and I saw that it had been cut down, and I just fell, and I was like, no. I mean, just imagine seeing like one of your friends, you like walk into their house and they're cut off at the ankles. That was how traumatized I was. And when we came back in from recess, the whole class was like, what is wrong? Because I didn't cry. And I had my hands on, like, I was doing the thing that you do on the desk, and I was just sobbing, and the teacher was like, what is wrong? And she was trying to be, well, I'll tell you what she was doing is she was being patronizing is what she was doing. What's wrong, Alex? Why are you crying? I told the class collectively, now I'm just getting secondhand embarrassed. When I told them that I was crying because the tree was cut down, the other students, dickheads though they were, didn't tease me or make fun of me. They were just kind of like, oh, oh, okay. And the teacher was like, but Alex, trees get cut down every day. The generation that raised millennials, you guys are fucked up. What's wrong with you? And she was like trying to logic this pain out of me, and was like, said, I remember, look at your elbows. What the fuck? And I look at my elbows, and she's like, see, what is that your elbows are on? It was a desk. It's a wooden desk. And she's like, see, wood is everywhere. How in the fuck was that my fault? I didn't pick what the fucking desks were made out of. It's just, when I think about my true self as a human being, I think about those two times where when I was a kid and I cried over a tree, and then when I was just a little bit older and I cried over, like, actually learning a lesson about pollution and climate change and the environment. And I remember that it hurt me so bad to have this pain. And level, it was totally the OCD. If you have OCD, you understand. If you don't have OCD, let me explain. You have a crippling, paralyzing, worry doesn't describe it, anxiety doesn't describe it. It is death is coming. Horror is coming. The worst fucking things you can imagine, it's coming. And there's nothing you can do about it. And so I just couldn't exist with that much pain. And so I slowly started blending. If we're talking IFS, internal family systems therapy, which I talk about a lot, and I do that therapy. You have your true self, and you have your exiles, which hold the pain, but then you have the protectors that come in and say, buck up, or whatever. They manage you so that you can function. Because I couldn't handle things like seeing a tree get cut down. To be fair, I saw a lot of terrible, terrible things as a child. Most of them from my dad. But a lot of them just like random nature things as well. Like my donkey died and his carcass just rotted. And I had to see it every day because apparently burying him was too fucking hard to do. And so yeah, compartmentalizing all this made me into this whoever the fuck I was when I was 21. Real hard ass. I think that's every 21-year-old, but me specifically, like, I was the vindictive, angry, emotional, crazy. I was just, I guess I shouldn't go, ew, to myself, because it's like, I accept that got me through that time in my life, but God, what a fucking unnecessary detour. I didn't want to be that way. I never wanted to wake up and be a fucking like neck. First of all, I've never been a redneck, but like I don't want to be this person that just is an antagonist and provokes and blah snowflakes. Like I never wanted to be that way. And I still wish that I wouldn't have had to be that way. I think if people would have been kinder to me in general and give me a fucking break and let me have some fucking emotions and, other things like not traumatize me in terrible ways, I could have skipped over the phase of my life where I was trying really hard to prove that I was tough and strong and I didn't, you don't need help. Pull yourself up, but like I was a Gen Xer. I wasn't that bad, but I really had my moments. And I see people struggle with this even now. So like addiction is a really common one. Peter Mon, the YouTuber I was talking about, he talks a lot about addiction, and it's so wonderful to hear him be compassionate. A lot of what I know about addiction, I learned because I was studying the brain at the time, which I'll get into that in a minute. But Peter talks about how addiction is a disease and you wouldn't treat somebody who had any other disease the way that you treat addicts. And it's true, you wouldn't. Unless they have an invisible illness and then you think that they're not sick, so you treat them like shit because you think they're healthy, which is also not okay. But like addiction, I have some very kind, compassionate friends that are wonderful people, and they still will say things like, well, that's their choice. They made that choice. And I just don't think that they did. I don't think anybody would choose that. I don't think anybody would pick a fucking door knowing what was behind it and that door be. I don't think that any human would do that. So being as changed as I am now, and then hearing a lot of, even my very, very close friends, people I love, my family, being to me what I would consider to be harsh and inflexible and having their defense mechanisms up all the time. Oh, it makes me so tired. So tired. And I'm not saying now that I'm like some kind of saint or that I have like benevolence and nobody else does. I think what I'm saying is that I'm vulnerable now where I used to not be. And that vulnerability hurts. It's hard. It is one of the things that changed this mindset for me was, I'll tell you how it happened. I watched when I was in a very career driven, productive, workaholic, always do something. I was in that mode of my life, Aviator, and something just struck me. And the only reason I watched The Aviator, to be perfectly honest, I played New Vegas and loved Mr. House, who was based on Howard Hughes, which is the movie The Aviator is about. And I watched The Aviator and just it called out to me in a way that when I watched first Leo was Howard Hughes, and then I went and like actually studied Howard Hughes himself, and I watched his was my hero. Hero worshipped Howard Hughes. So that came first. And if you know anything about Howard Hughes, the way I would describe him is eccentric, unnecessarily intelligent, innovative, energetic, too energetic, an anomaly, truly, and he was himself bizarre even. He also had OCD and he also had ADHD, which you never hear people talk about, but the part that most people know is when the OCD took over later in life and he really just lost. He was lost in that disorder and it killed him. For a reason, he became my hero. This is a scene in The Aviator, but it's actually based on a real thing that happened to Howard Hughes. He was trying to set a land speed record with his H1 racer. Amelia Earhart was flying above him to help keep time and basically audit, just so you know, that's pretty cool too. He had just enough fuel to do the record because he was trying to stay light. Well, he ended up pushing it because that's what you do when you have ADHD. Or maybe it was the OCD because he was looking for perfection. He beat the record, like, out of fuel, crashed in a beet field, And the people who were out in the fields with him that day ran up to the accident scene. They had an ambulance, and they expected to see like Howard Pancake Hughes, and he was just sitting. He was out with him, and his words were, "She'll go faster." And I think that encompassed to me what I felt like how I felt like I lived my life. A, doing ridiculous things. B, pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And C, never being satisfied. Never being satisfied. Where he couldn't even enjoy I mean, I'm sure he was enjoying the moment. But he couldn't even say, cool, or good job, or whatever. He said, she'll go faster. Which is him never doubting that there's always more. Didn't realize is that those pieces that I thought were, an inherently trait were actually traits of ADHD. We started dating Alan. He reminded me a bit of Howard Hughes, but that when I showed Alan The Aviator, he was very concerned because The Aviator highlights a lot of Hughes's OCD behaviors, and Alan had never seen a portrayal of OCD and didn't realize that he had it to that level, because the thing that people don't understand about OCD is it's not all washing your hands. It's not all compulsions. It could just be looping thoughts. That's also OCD. It could be intrusive thoughts. That's also OCD. Anyway, the movie did a really good job of kind of showing those moments for what they felt like for Alan. And as we learned more about these disorders, so then when I realized, oh, he has OCD, and it started affecting him, his ADHD, nuts learning about the brain. Like, I probably could get a bachelor's in psychology, at least as far as those two disorders go, because I was trying to understand Alan. And it worked. I understand him quite well. And then I learned that I had both of those disorders, and so it's like, oh, maybe that's why I thought Howard Hughes was so great. Because I'm egotistical. Knew that he had ADHD. I would scream and yell and scream and yell, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why can't you just do this? Why can't you just do that? And I tried to stop when I was learning about ADHD, because I'm like, well, wait, he can't control this. This isn't him trying to be a shitty, lazy person. This isn't him trying to be an angry person. This isn't him being a slob. This isn't him not being interested in me. This is a disorder. That's weird. But then I found out I had it. And those feelings, it was like my whole life was just reimagined in front of me, where I wasn't lazy, I wasn't goofing off, I wasn't, struggling to reach my potential. I had a neurodivergent brain, and that is not something that I knew. I thought all my shit was because of the trauma, but it turns out, no, I was born that way. And that has totally changed me, and how, like, now when I talk to people, their behaviors and their choices don't seem so personal, and they also don't seem like something that the person is always in control of themselves. So it's been great to learn that I have it, because now I can learn things that I wasn't able to learn before, and then that helps me understand things more. There's one, like, nagging worry in the back of my mind, though, and it comes from the idea, the school of thought, that children who are traumatized, is to, like, absorb information, so that it's kind of, one type of hypervigilance is like loading up on guns and ammo and learning taekwondo and hoarding water, and I'm all for those things too. Like, that's totally hypervigilance. Or like closing a door every time you're in the room because you don't like open doors. I do that too. But this one is like you're arming yourself mentally against things. It's like, I can't not know. I must know. And somebody phrased it that, yeah, it's not curiosity, it's hypervigilance. And I got so upset because my love of learning, I didn't want trauma to take that from me too, or to be the cause of that. Just like you don't want trauma to be the cause of your compassion. Everybody who's out here saying, I'm an empath. You're not an empath. You were traumatized. There's no such thing as an empath. There are people whose nervous systems are so highly tuned. Mine is like that. To other people's nervous systems that it's like you can read their mind. That's not you mind reading. That, I mean, I guess in a way it is, but it's not because you're magic. It's because you because you were very deeply, deeply wounded. And that's not a good reason to have a superpower. Wouldn't make that trade. 0 out of 10. So, like, when people say, oh, I have so much compassion because I was beaten, it's like, yikes. Can't you have compassion without? I mean, is there a choice? Like, God, I hope so. But that's one thing. But hearing or thinking, well, I don't really love to learn. I'm just trying to arm myself against every intellectual predator that might be lurking in the shadows. That's so sad and scary to me. I don't want that to be the way that I was, because I was 5 years old and I read encyclopedias. Like, that was, I read encyclopedias, and I did read the children's Bible that was gifted to me by our neighbor, but yikes, that was terrifying. I read that one when I wanted to be sad and depressed. It had pictures of the ark flooding. Anyway, I don't want to be, I don't want that to be from trauma. I want that to be from me being curious about things. And I think I'm learning what is what. There will be moments of both. My friend told me of some symptoms he was having. This has been probably about a month ago. Weird symptoms, like vagus nerve related symptoms. I knew immediately when I heard. And he was just telling me. And did I compile a list of resources of possible causes of these strange symptoms? Yes, I did. Was that me being a caring friend? Yeah, sure, totally. Was that my hypervigilance of fear of the unknown? Like, being like, oh my god, I've got to help. Also, yes. Um, so it's like I can kind of see when that hypervigilance creeps in, and that I'm at my center, I'm just a curious person. But it's like I'm a curious fucking pig. Like, I am a curious glutton. I won't stop. I can't even watch a movie and enjoy it. I'm like IMDbing the trivia of the movie and what it was based on and what the actors thought about it, and like I'm putting a lot of research into this. I'm working on it. Um, and that's one of the, I think, things that I wanted to share with this sphere, is like share my tools that help me in going back to myself, becoming myself again. Um, and this video is just way too long already, so I'll compile those. But I think if I could list them, it would definitely be therapy in general, but trauma therapy, number one. Being with Alan, because his diagnoses and then my diagnoses have just, like the Carl Sagan gift, like that was me when I learned the truth about behavior. The Enneagram is another one, and I'll probably talk about that one next time because that one's super fun. But the Enneagram was a tool that when I learned about it, it made everything not only make sense, but it allowed me to accept the strange duality of how I am. And maybe part of it's just age. It's cool to be edgy when you're in your 20s. It's cool to like go against the grain and be like, no way, snowflakes. I don't know what other word to call. Like, that's cool when you're 20, but it's less cool when you're 30 and you're trying to raise a child in the world and you see how fucked up it is, and you want some tenderness. Well, I need it now where I didn't need it before. But yeah, that's what's on my mind lately, is like some reflection about how far back to myself I am getting recently. Yeah, maybe I'll do another one of these in the future. Sorry that got so deep with all of my sad childhood stories, but, that's the case wherever I go. Have a good day.